Hello everyone. This is Dr. Pratpal Singh, an MD Pharmacology from CMC Ludhiana, and there have always been a lot of debate and issues on generic versus brand drugs. And today I would be talking about this particular aspect of drugs, and in few coming sessions I will be talking about how generic drugs and brand drugs they differ from each other, what are the various terms that are used by regulatory authorities, so as we can have some clarity on what exactly we label as a generic drug and what are the brand drug, and maybe that reduces the impact of therapy, the cost of therapy to the patient, and at the same time being equally effective. That is the purpose of a presentation, of having a presentation on generic versus brand drug. So this is what I'll be talking about in another 10-15 minutes. I'll be talking about this particular aspect of generic versus branded drug, and I hope I'll be able to clarify some doubts. So if we go by the definition, generic drugs are ident generic drugs are, let's have this particular aspect out here. Generic drugs are identical, bioequivalent to a brand name drug in dosage form, safety, strength, route of administration, quality, performance characteristics, and intended use. That means that these drugs have to be identical and bioequivalent so that they are almost in similar dosage form, safety, strength, route of administration, quality, performance, and their intended use. So these generics are pharmaceutical products that contain well-established drugs. They are intended to be interchangeable with original products, usually manufactured without a license from the original manufacturer, marketed after the expiry of patent or other exclusivity right. Now I'll talk about this. I'll be coming to this exclusivity right, what this exactly means. And they are marketed either under a non-proprietor name or under brand name where they are labeled as branded generics. Now, what is this patent or exclusive right? Right from the time when an investigational new drug or a new molecule, NCE, that is a new chemical entity, comes into the picture, or it gives approval, or it has a lifespan of around 20 years, out of which 1 to 5 years are normally it takes in the study of animal studies. Once the animal studies are done, that takes on an average it is 2.6 years. Then FDA has takes around 30 days to the safety review of this particular drug, and it undergoes phase 1 study, phase 2 study, and phase 3 study. At the same time, clinical long-term animal studies also keep on going. Then this particular phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 studies on an average take 2 to 10 years, with an average being 5.6 years. After this the entire document for the results in vitro as well as phase 1, 2, and 3 are submitted for new drug application review, and the FDA takes on an average 1 year for the review of this particular drug. So that means around 2.5 years gone in this, 5.5 years gone in this, so 8 years, 9 years, and 9.5 years. So that means out of the 20 years that this particular drug had, 9 to 10 years are gone in clinical testing, and it has only 11 years of exclusivity right. That means only for 11 years this particular drug can be marketed or uh, sold by the brand or by the company that has registered the patent. After that, once this 20 years is over, now the drug is the other companies are at an ease to manufacture this particular drug. And if after within this 20 years, any company wants to manufacture this particular drug, it'll have to give a patent right, or it'll have to give some amount of royalty to the parent company who has registered this particular patent. So this particular patent, now this generic formula or this particular generic drug, this came after the Hatch-Waxman amendment to the Fixed Dose Combination Drug and Cosmetic Act. It was there in 1984, and this is considered as one of the most successful pieces of legislation that has been ever passed, creating a generic industry. So this creation of the generic industry increased the availability of generics. And at the time of 1984, 12% of the prescriptions were generic, whereas in 2000, it increased to 44%. But only 8% of the revenue is for these prescription drugs. Now, this what it did, this Hatch-Waxman amendment did, it gave generic drug companies great access to the market for prescription drugs and gave innovator companies greater patent life. So it was a win-win formula for both the generic drug companies as well as the innovator companies. Moving beyond this, now what does this Hatch-Waxman Act says? Now the patent that we were talking about gives the company sole right to sell the drug while the patent is effect, that is for a period of 20 years. And when this patent expires, manufacturers can apply to FDA to sell the generic version. Drug companies at this particular time submit an abbreviated new drug application for approval to market a generic product. This abbreviated new drug application does not require the drug sponsor to repeat the costly animal and clinical research or ingredients or dosage form that have already been approved for safety and effectiveness. And this is applied to drugs that have been manufactured after 1962. Therefore, what happened was generic medications are priced lower than the brand name medications. How is this process different? This is the new drug application. This is the abbreviated new drug application. The chemistry, obviously, you have to take care of it. Manufacturing, the control, the label, and the testing. Now, what has changed? The change has occurred in this particular situation. For new drug application, you require animal studies, clinical studies, and bioavailability, and this is the most cost consuming process, whereas for an abbreviated new drug application you require bioequivalence studies which are comparatively cost effective, thereby giving generic drugs a lower cost. Now the question arises regarding the quality of generic drugs. Now the first 5 steps that we were talking about out here, that means the chemistry, manufacture, control, labeling, and testing. So chemistry, manufacture, control, labeling, and testing, these are identical to the new drug application. And bioequivalence for complicated product is discussed. FDA has experience with this product. The scientific literature is published. Product is known to be safe. Let's talk about this particular application. So you apply for an abbreviated new drug application. The application is reviewed. Either it is acceptable or and complete. If it is not acceptable, the letter is refused and the applicant can again file it. If it is acceptable, the FDA wants the request for plant inspection. It wants to review the chemistry and micro review. It wants to go for the labeling review and also the bioequivalence review. If the plant inspection is okay, it is approved. If the chemistry and micro is okay, if the labeling is okay, if the bioequivalence is okay, then this particular drug is approved. If at any stage, let's say the plant is not okay, in that particular situation, approval is withheld until results are satisfactory. If the chemistry and labeling is not okay, not approval letter is given. And if the bioequivalence letter is not okay, then a biodeficiency letter is given. So at each and every step, for bioequivalence study, for labeling, for chemistry, for all the things are being monitored by the FDA. Now, there are certain requirements that need to be fulfilled for a generic drug. It should have the same active ingredient. It should be used in the same route of administration, the same dosage form, the same strength, the same condition of use as compared to the reference listed drug. Now, let's say an example of paracetamol. You get many brands of paracetamol, so they should have the same active ingredient, the same route of administration, the same dosage form, the same strength, and the same condition of use. Now, labeling same, it should be same as a brand name. You may delete portion of labeling protected by patent or exclusivity. It may differ in expedient in the pharmacokinetic data and how it is supplied. These are areas where it could differ. Coming to the chemistry part, the component and composition should be equivalent. Manufacturing and control should be there. Batch formulation record should be there. Description of facilities, Specs and test, packaging, and stability. All these have to be ensured by the generic drug company. They should have manufacturing compliance purpose. The purpose of this is to assure quality of marketed drug product. Mechanism is you go for surveillance, manufacturing, and assess the firm's compliance with good manufacturing processes or GMP. Once this is approved drug product with therapeutic equivalence evaluation, which is there in the 23rd edition, there's an electronic orange book that is available in the FDA. The product in the list has to be approved under Section 505 of Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, that is FFDNC. And now this is approved by the Office of Generic Drugs. Now, what is this orange book? This orange book has approved drug product list that includes the new drug application, over-the-counter drugs, and abbreviated new drug equivalents. Now, they use certain equivalence codes. One is A, other is B. A is it is substitutable. B is it is inequivalent and non-substitutable. Now, how do we process this further? We'll be talking about this in the coming sessions. It should have an expiration date that is there, patents and exclusivity, and the references listed brand drugs identified by FDA for generic companies to compare with the proposed products. So this was in brief a session on the basic process of how a generic drug and a brand drug differ. Now we'll be in the coming sessions, we'll also be talking about the various terms that are used, bioequivalence, therapeutic equivalence, how do we proceed ahead, so that we have some clarity on this particular topic and we can benefit our patients maximally. Till that time, I wish you all to have a good and happy learning. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.